Many a times you are thinking that you are fighting these battles, solo on your own. It's your own individual battle. You are not realizing that you are fighting the battle that your mother was fighting. You are not realizing that you are fighting the battle that your grandmother was fighting, the battle that your great grandmother was fighting, the battle that your great 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 grandmother. These are generational cycles and patterns that we are really dealing with. All right. So many a times you're thinking you're just fighting, a one human being battle, but you are fighting many battles. You are fighting generational battle, a battle that has to do with your race, inherited programs that have to do with your race, inherited programs that have to do with your culture, inherited programs that has to do with your gender. Many programs that you would have inherited that you would be dealing with, that you are not aware that you are dealing with them. And then you would be asking yourself, how this intelligent, beautiful, amazing person such as myself, hello soul tribe, hello soul family, welcome to this channel where we heal and integrate, because consciousness is the new frontier. We are healing, removing distorted mind control programs from our psyche. We are integrating, remembering the truth of who we are, the luminous, radiant, glorious, magnificent sun beings or light beings that we are, before we were bombarded with a whole lot of mind control programs in our psyche. So we are remembering who we were before we were psychologized, right? And then who we are is consciousness, is one with God, one with life, one with all that is, one with each other. All right. We are beautiful, we are glorious, we are luminant, we are luminous. Yes, that's the right word. Okay, and so consciousness is the new frontier, because what does it profit a man to gain the whole world of matter and lose the most important thing of them all, which is the spiritual aspect of themselves? All right, and the spiritual aspect of who we are is consciousness, because consciousness is spirit and it is who we are. It is more, yeah. All right, welcome. Don't forget to like these videos. Don't forget to hit that notification bell after you have subscribed. Hit that notification bell so that you can be notified when new videos come out. All right, let's talk about why we should heal before starting a new relationship. Okay, so anytime a relationship fails or fractures, especially a romantic one, you want to take time out to heal. Because if you don't take time out to heal and recover from such kind of a relationship, especially if you're an empath, especially if you are, those people that are on an ascension journey, on a spiritual healing path, if you are those people, you definitely want to take time out to heal when a relationship falls apart, or when a relationship fails, or it breaks down, or it just collapses, right? You want to do this because this is one of the most important things that you can ever do for yourself. The gifts of doing such a thing can be life-saving, literally. Okay, because many a times I found myself in a situation where I've entered into relationships without actually taking the time to consider if I'm really healed and ready to be in a relationship or not. And many a times I found out way into the relationship that, actually, I wasn't even ready to get into a relationship, because I still had a few wounds. I had a few loose ends, basically, that needed to be tied up before I entered into a relationship. And as such, to the most part, I found myself dealing with very, very toxic, psychopathic type of individuals in my life. And those are big lessons that come out of that. All right. And so with those lessons, come this wisdom that I would definitely love to share with you. And most importantly, also as a precaution as well, because sometimes you sort of like wish you had certain information, or you had known certain things before certain things happen. And sometimes, unfortunately, it's not always the case. Unfortunately, some lessons you only learn them once you experience certain things in your life. All right. And so I'm sharing this with you with hopes that you might be able to perhaps avoid some of the pitfalls that I've ran into. Okay. Yeah, because I tell you, if you find yourself in a situation where you are dealing with dark personalities, toxic individuals in a relationship setting, um, yeah, that definitely becomes something that absolutely catalyzes your spiritual awakening in exponential ways. All right. But the thing is that the pain of toxic relationships is one that you don't wish on anyone. All right. And so, with that being the case, I'm sharing this with you so that you at least are able to, protect yourself. You are able to do the necessary work that you need to do, so that when you enter into a relationship, you are ready for what you need to deal with in a relationship, what you get to deal with in a relationship setting. So let's look at the first one. The first one is, emotional wounds. Emotional wounds create blind spots. So if you've just, went through a breakup, the last thing you want to do is jump into another relationship. I know there is a saying that says, the best way to get over someone is to get under someone. But I can guarantee you that most of the time, that is a very disastrous arrangement for you, especially if you're an empath. Okay. So you don't want to jump from one relationship to another relationship. Okay. And of course, the jokes that Spirit plays on me is that before I did this video, I had a call from a client, and of course, they were in a karmic relationship, and they literally had just broken up with someone. After that relationship breaking down, they only gave it 2 weeks and then they jumped into another relationship. Now that doesn't give you enough time to heal and recover from whatever it is that you sustained in that previous relationship. The ending of a relationship is a very traumatic experience for a human being, male or female, it doesn't matter. The thing about this whole thing with the difference between the two genders, many a times we think that a relationship breakup affects only the divine feminine, but it actually affects both women and men. The only reason why you will not see that a man is breaking down is because men have been conditioned to disconnect from their own emotional state. So they have dissociated to the most part, from their own selves, but they suffer the same nonetheless. And as long as, and you don't want to deal with a man who never heals from anything, who is not in touch with their own emotions and their own pain. You do not want to be in a relationship with that kind of a person, because in the same way that they've rejected their own pain, they will reject yours. Okay. In the same way that they are not in touch with their own emotions, they are not going to be able to hold the space for you. And as a divine feminine, as a woman, you want to be with someone that is able to hold the space for you. Someone who is in touch with their own emotions. Emotions are not for women. They are for human beings. And also, I'm not saying that a man should, operate precisely the same way that a woman operates. No, these are two different, types of manifestations and expressions of God. But when it comes to emotions, when it comes to energy in motion, it's for both genders. Because we all feel pain, we all feel love, we all feel disappointment, we all feel anger, we all feel heartbreak. We all feel, or at least we should, that's how we've been wired, right? So, number one, emotional wounds create blind spots. Okay, emotional wounds create blind spots. So if you have not healed those wounds, you are not going to be able to see what you need to see in the next person that you're going to be dealing with, because the pain is still clouding your judgment. When you are in pain, you are willing to settle for anything. And many a times you are even able to, create glorious and glamorous overlays of ice cream on top of poop. This is a Melanie Tonya Evans phrase, and I find it very humorous, and I like using it. It's like you create overlays, like because you are having blind spots. That means there are certain things that you can't see that you should be seeing. because that's wounds make you unconscious. Usually, emotional wounds, if you are having wounds that you are not even aware of, many a times when you are dealing with emotional wounds, you're not even aware that you are having those wounds, right? And then you are also, they are causing you to be unconscious, because that part of you that is sustaining those wounds that are not being addressed, that becomes unconscious. You are shut off from it because you are trying to shut yourself off from the pain of the emotions, right? And so by shutting yourself off from the pain of those emotions, you are literally shutting yourself off from yourself. You are closing your eyes, basically. You are creating blind spots. So that means in that particular area, you're not going to be able to see things clearly the way that you ought to see them. All right, because the wounds are the ones that are speaking on your behalf. It's not your own better judgment that's doing that. Right? That's number one. Number two, your self-esteem hasn't healed yet. So when a relationship breaks down, of course, you are going to take a self-esteem knock. You understand? And once again, that self-esteem knock will also, chances are, be coming from other previous situations in your life that did not work out. And so because you haven't taken the time out to actually, get into that wholesome and congruent state within yourself, where you begin to understand your true worth and your true value. And you begin to understand that it has nothing to do with maybe what your previous toxic partner said or didn't say about you, or did or didn't do with regards to you. When you haven't yet come to that place where you've come home to yourself and to your own sense of self-worth, your own healthy self-concept, if you haven't come to that point yet, you're not ready to get into a new relationship, because all you are doing is you are coming into this relationship, you are still hoping for this person to, give you that sense of self. And of course, predatory individuals will give you a nice, wholesome sense of self in the beginning to reel you in. You understand? And so because you are still carrying those wounds and they are serving as blind spots, you're not even able to see that this is only a facade. This is only a mirage. And only thirsty people in a desert will fall for a mirage. A person that has water in a desert and is riding on a nice camel and has got nice supplies there, they are not going to fall for a mirage. In fact, a mirage is likely not going to even show up for them. You understand? So that's what you would be dealing with there. So your self-esteem hasn't healed. So that means you're going to enter into a relationship with an unconscious expectation that the other person is supposed to give you a sense of self-esteem. And this is something that toxic people and dark personalities are all too happy to do for you. For that 5 minutes, that first 5 minutes, they are happy to do that. You understand? But any healthy person is not going to, entertain that situation where if they see that you are needing external sources of validation, they're not going to be going into a relationship with you, because they will understand that, they want to be with people who are, healthy within themselves. And a healthy person will still, make you feel good about yourself, but they will not be trying to be your source of everything. Whereas a toxic person will be doing that. They'll be playing those games with you if you are not yet healed. All right, let's look at number 3. The raw wounds make you emotionally vulnerable. All right, so if you have not healed, you are emotionally vulnerable. You are emotionally needy, if we should call it that way. And so here, this has nothing to do, because, the thing about toxic individuals is that they have a way of twisting everything upside down, right? So even healthy needs within a relationship, a toxic individual will say to you that you are needy. You understand? Because they have no intention of meeting any of your needs, even the most basic ones that they ought to be meeting within a relationship context. They will call you needy for having those ones. So this is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that kind of neediness where, once again, you are needing the other person to give you that sense of wholeness, that sense of congruency, that sense of solidity within yourself, that sense of validity. You are needing that external validation. You are needing to be in a relationship to feel whole as a person, because you don't feel like, you are whole as a person if you are not in a relationship. You don't feel legitimate as a person if you're not in a relationship. All right. So you become vulnerable, because then that means as long as you're not feeling whole within yourself, you are constantly looking for someone to make you feel whole. That means you are willing to, give yourself away at a massive discount, 90% discount. Have you ever seen that? Many women out here in the world, especially here in South Africa, because I deal with about 500 of them at least in a year. Okay. And, myself included, isn't it? Because I'm not going to sit here and try and pretend to be any better than anyone. I'm still growing and learning my own lessons. All right. And so what I've seen is that dynamic that says that, beautiful, lovely, intelligent women, very, very powerful women in very prominent positions of power. But the one power that they need to be having, they wouldn't be having, because they would be dealing with wounds, emotional wounds that have not yet been healed. And sometimes, these wounds don't necessarily have to do with time per se, but they have to do with the fact that, they were just never attended to at all. You find that a relationship has ended and the person just, ended the whole thing, shut down, and then continued with their lives. Maybe they took 2 more years before they entered into another relationship, but they never ever healed. They never ever addressed the pain and the wounds of that breakup. And then they thought that, because time has lapsed, time has passed, that means the wounds would have been healed. But emotional wounds don't go away because of time. They go away because of healing. Emotional wounds need to be healed. They don't need to be, timed away or timed out. They need to be healed. And emotional wounds will stay for generations in the psyche of a family if they are not addressed. Okay, so now what I was saying here is that, so you'll find very powerful, very independent, very amazing women. And I myself, I'm in that list. I've been there, done that. I've got my t-shirt. I actually have a few t-shirts in that regard, where this amazing, fabulous human being that you are, you will be discounting yourself, selling yourself very, very short because of unhealed wounds, giving yourself away at a discount to someone who should never even have deserved a conversation with you to begin with, because of unhealed wounds, because you are vulnerable. And because you are vulnerable, that hello that you are getting from this other person is everything to you. All right, is everything to you because the wounds have not been healed. This is why it's important to heal, because then when you are healed, and even though maybe you are still in your healing journey and not everything has been healed, but you are at least, strong enough to be able to, one, see things for what they are instead of seeing things for the overlays that you've created on them. The window dressing that you've created on a very toxic situation. You are able to engage with reality authentically. All right. So that's what happens when you address the wounds. Okay. So number 4, unhealed wounds make you emotionally desperate. Okay, so that, once again, that's where you begin to discount yourself. That's when you begin to settle for crumbs and things like that. All right. Twice I was willing to, become a second person, a second whatever, some kind of a second fiddle in some kind of a situation. Okay, because I hadn't healed what I needed to heal within myself. I hadn't come to that place where I understood that it's actually okay to be alone. There's no harm in being alone. I'm a whole being. Like, I'm a whole human being. Hey? Like, I was born alone in this world, and I will die alone in this world. Okay? My coffin will only have me inside it. It's not going to have any other person. So I'm good enough all by myself. I hadn't come to that point. Like, I still felt the need. And I'm not saying I'm perfect now. I'm not saying I've, mastered the whole thing. I'm still learning and growing through this, because what I'm dealing with as a Black South African woman is the societal conditioning here in Africa that says women are inferior than men. So those are the programs that I'm breaking through, within myself. All right. And then I'm still dealing with, programs that have to do with the generational patterns of many of our families here in South Africa that are very toxic. The repeat cycles of the toxic relationship between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. In my lifetime, I've witnessed thousands and thousands of women who have been beaten up and brutalized and almost killed. Some of them have been killed by their loved ones, all right, by the men in their lives. So that's still a psychic program and a distorted program and a generational pattern that I'm still working through. I'm healing through all of those things, all right? So there's a lot. So I won't say that I've mastered it. I'm still working with a lot because, I'm those generations that were born even during apartheid, in my country here. So it's still a lot. But what I'm saying here is that, unhealed wounds will make you that desperate. And the sad part is that many women are walking around in this world are not even aware of the wounds that they are carrying. And even I myself, I was not aware of the wounds that I've been carrying. A lot of them I wasn't aware I was carrying until, Spirit revealed these things to me. And I am so grateful because if it wasn't for my guides, many of the toxic situations that I found myself in, I wouldn't have survived them. Because they are spiritual, they are dark, they are very demonic. Okay. And, as I say, they are long-standing because many times you are thinking that you are fighting these battles, solo on your own. It's your own individual battle. You are not realizing that you are fighting the battle that your mother was fighting. You are not realizing that you are fighting the battle that your grandmother was fighting. The battle that your great-grandmother was fighting. The battle that your great-great-great-great-grandmother... These are generational cycles and patterns that we are really dealing with. All right. So many a times you're thinking you're just fighting, a one human being battle, but you are fighting many battles. You are fighting generational battles, racial battles, a battle that has to do with your race, inherited programs that have to do with your race, inherited programs that have to do with your culture, inherited programs that has to do with your gender. Many programs that you would have inherited that you would be dealing with that you are not aware that you are dealing with them. And then you would be asking yourself, how this intelligent, beautiful, amazing person such as myself, so why am I engaging with such kind of dynamics? What's going on here? And then, as I say, for me personally, my guides have helped me to be able to see these things and to also see, the generational patterns, the national patterns, the racial and cultural patterns that I've been dealing with. Some of them are also religious as well, isn't it? And traditional as well. So those patterns, they make us desperate. For example, here in South Africa and in Africa in general, and I think it's a global thing, we have this thing that says that it's very much unspoken, but sometimes some men say it. I've heard people say it, that women are inferior than men, right? This belief that men are superior than women. This is a big one that plays in the psyche of a lot of us as women. And how you see that is a very strong program playing within you is when you believe, or when you also see people that believe that, you are nothing as a woman if you don't have a man. I remember I was watching Dr. Heavenly from Married to Medicine, also has her own, channel and blog, right? Of course, these are American celebrities. But it's not only in America, it happens quite a lot here in Africa. So Dr. Heavenly was speaking to Quad. Quad is one of the wives, in Married to Medicine. And she was married to one of the doctors there, but the relationship was toxic and it ended. And so she's been single and living alone for a while. I don't know where she is now because it's been a while since I watched the show. And, instead of Dr. Heavenly just encouraging and speaking positive, and I like Dr. Heavenly, but this is the reality of what was happening there, what she was saying there, which is instead of encouraging this woman, and just celebrating her for being able to stand on her own 2 feet, she just kept emphasizing, oh no, she don't got nobody. She just all alone, she don't got a husband, she don't got children, she don't got nothing. She's just, all alone. So all of those things. And it's like, what? Like, are you saying that a single woman has to be pitied? Meaning there's something wrong because she's single and she's living her life alone. It doesn't matter that she could be living her best life, because to the most part, a lot of women are actually very happy alone, because many a times a lot of women have to endure a lot of abuse in relationships. So most of the time, you find that many women find the greatest peace in their lives when they are alone. I've certainly seen that to be my experience. And yet you will find other women, not even men, other women will be looking down on you simply because you are single. And then you find yourself taking that on and also feeling shitty about yourself simply because you are single. Here's the thing. You are a whole human being on your own. You are not missing anything by being in a relationship. And your ability, your success is not determined by whether or not you are in a relationship. Your success has to do with what is it that you came here to contribute to the world. That's what your success has to do with. Not whether you are in a relationship or not. And then there's also that one, and all of this hits home with me, because it's like, just because you don't have children, that means you are less of a woman than another woman that has children out there. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. What makes you worthwhile as a human being has to do with, are you doing what you are here to do in the world? And if what you are here to do in the world is raise children, to give birth to children and raise them and, do all those wonderful things as a parent, great, good for you. Don't impose that on everyone else. Don't do that. And you yourself, if you are that person that is a single woman, you don't have children, don't impose other people's opinions on yourself. Okay? Your joy, your dignity, your sovereignty has nothing to do with a man, and it has nothing to do with you having children or not having children. You are an amazing, divine human spirit on your own. On your own. Okay. So, but then those unhealed wounds that many a times have to do with what I've just described now will make you so desperate that you'll be settling for crumbs. People that you should not even, as I said, have conversations with. You'll find yourself in relationships with them. And of course, they will be seeing how amazing you are, and they'll be intimidated by it, and they'll be treating you like shit. Right? So this is why it's important to heal before you get into relationships, so that you can even see you are not so desperate that you settle for things that are way beneath you. And not beneath you as in you are better than them in anything, but as in, if you are a lovely, wonderful, kind, caring human being, and then the next thing you get into a relationship with a crocodile of a human being, that will just wreak havoc in your life and in your psyche. Those are the stuff that are beneath you. You understand? So, number 5, you overlook red flags. When a crocodile is coming down the road there, Ianda Van Zandt will say, when you see crazy coming down the road, cross the street. But when you are dealing with a lot of wounds, when you see that crazy crocodile coming down the road, you will think, I can tame it. That's what you will think when you are still dealing with wounds. Okay, and the sinister thing about emotional wounds is that they don't, they don't say, I'm a wound, I'm here, and I need attention. What wounds do is that they literally, they disguise themselves. They create all sorts of strange gimmicks there to hide themselves. And so you're not aware that you're dealing with wounds. All you find yourself dealing with or doing is just having this strong impulse and urge to want to be in a relationship, to want to get something to happen, So you'll find yourself having a very strong impulse and urge to make the relationship work, even if you can see that this thing is falling apart at the seams, it's falling apart all over. You would having a strong impulse to want to make it work. All right, so you will be overlooking red flags. All right, I hope I've covered everything that I needed to cover with regards to that point. And then, so number 6, which is the last point, you risk re-traumatizing yourself. So if you enter into a new relationship without healing from the previous one, and understand this, so the breakup of a relationship is traumatic to a human being. So if you haven't healed and then you jump into a new relationship, what you end up doing is re-traumatizing yourself, because everything that you'll be dealing with in that relationship, you'll be looking at it from a wounded perspective. You're not going to be having your healthy filters on. You're going to be having wounded filters. And so those wounded filters will cause you to see distortions instead of dealing with reality. And, in the same way that the wounds can cause you to see Prince Charming when you are really dealing with a frog, in the same way, the wounds can cause you to actually see a frog when Prince Charming shows up, or let's say, basically you're not going to be able to deal with things rationally. You're going to be dealing with things irrationally. And then now if you're dealing with a toxic person, they're absolutely going to enjoy, every irrational displays that you will be bringing into the whole mix, because they enjoy dealing with broken people, because they enjoy showing people how broken they are, because this makes them feel better. You understand? So you want to be healed so that you don't re-traumatize yourself with a new relationship. Okay, so let's just go over those points again. The first point is you want to heal. Right? So you want to heal before starting a relationship because, number one, emotional wounds create blind spots. Number two, your self-esteem has not yet healed. You want to heal that self-esteem before you enter into a new relationship, so that you're not looking for the other person to heal that self-esteem. Number three, the raw wounds make you emotionally vulnerable. Okay, so here you are vulnerable to toxic people, to predatory individuals. You are just basically vulnerable, to making mistakes that you wouldn't typically have made if you were in a healthier state of being. All right, so don't rush into a relationship if you are not yet healed. Don't rush into any relationship, by the way. Number four, unhealed wounds make you emotionally desperate, right? Because you are trying to relieve yourself of the pain by, entering into a relationship with someone else, so that then they can be a distraction away from the pain that you are feeling within yourself. So you don't want to do that. You want to heal yourself. You don't want to distract yourself from yourself. Okay, because when you are trying to run into a relationship without being healed, you are literally abandoning yourself. That's what you are doing, and that's not a pleasant one. But that's, from a spiritual perspective, that's what happens. So, and that's just not a good thing, and it can never ever work well for you. All right, and then number four, you overlook red flags. You overlook red flags when you are not yet healed. So that means, you see crazy coming down the road. Instead of seeing that crazy for what it is, you see the crazy as this beautiful, shining, glimmery thing that you want to embrace. As I said previously, maybe you see that it's crazy, and somehow in your woundedness, you think I can fix it. But you don't realize that that craziness, thrives in its craziness. And the aim of the craziness is to actually destroy you. You understand? Whilst you are trying to, so you will break yourself whilst trying to fix the crazy person. And the crazy person will continue to break you as well. So the last one is number six. You risk re-traumatizing yourself. Once again, because when you are wounded, you're not going to be a match to healthy people. You're only going to be a match to people who are a match to your level of woundedness. You understand? So meaning you are basically, one of those fishes that are in that pond that's full of, crocodiles and frogs and all sorts of strange, unwholesome creatures, right? You are swimming in that pond, and you want to come out of that pond. You want to come out of that pond by healing, right? And then get into a better stream of water, a better stream of reality. And so when you are healed, and when you are, self-loving, self-partnering, and you are, fulfilled from within, and you are connected to life, and you are integrated, and, you are not needing an external source. We're talking about from within here, right? Not from, that mental, intellectual perspective, but from an internal state of being, an inner state of being. When you are healed, naturally you will manifest, or you will attract someone that's a match to that. And if anyone comes into your life and they're not a match to that, very quickly you'll see that they are not a match, and then you will decline whatever offers they are bringing before you. All right, if they don't run away themselves, because sometimes the person will just be repulsed by you, because they can see that their games, they don't work with you. Okay, so but the point is, at every level of life, we always have people who are a match to our energy, who are meant to be our partners, our romantic partners at that point. So if we are carrying wounds within us, then we are going to be attracting those people. We are basically going to be a match to those people who they themselves are carrying wounds within them, so that our wounds can trigger each other into healing, right? And so if we are healthier, then we become a match to those people who are healthier. And of course, you'll never reach a point where you are absolutely healed and there's nothing to be healed anymore. There will continue to be things that need to be healed. But here we are talking about the basic fundamental aspects of your being that would be wounded, that still need to be healed. For example, if you are still dealing with major self-rejection issues, it's you are not in a position to enter into a relationship. If you are dealing with major abandonment issues, here now as an adult, it's no longer about who abandoned you as a child. It's more about how you are abandoning yourself. And yes, perhaps in order to heal those abandonment issues or self-abandonment, you might need to revisit your earlier experiences in life to heal those. But you want to do it from that perspective, where you are also aware that you yourself would have been abandoning yourself, and how, as a result of maybe the abandonment you experienced in childhood, and then you look into healing and integrating in that regard. So if you're having abandonment issues, you are not ready to be in a relationship. All right, if you are having major self-rejection issues, you are not ready to be in a relationship. So here we are talking about major self-esteem issues. You've got a distorted perspective or perception about who you are. And there are two kinds of distorted perceptions about who we are. There's one that says, I'm unlovable and unworthy of love and all sorts of things like that, right? I'm defective, right? That's one side. But the other side of the coin is this one that says, I'm all that, I'm all good, I should get all this, everything should be mine, I should get everything that I want, I've got everything and everything. But that whole narrative is not coming from a healed perspective. It's just an intellectual statement that you are making, because when we start talking about radical self-love, this is where you see a lot of people rushing to the massage parlors, getting massages. Massages are very important. They are good, especially for spiritual reasons, right? But then you can't just be busy doing massages, but you are not attending to the wounded inner child. You're not being present with your own emotional, wounds and your own pain, your own inner discomforts. If you are neglecting your own inner discomforts, you are not doing yourself a favor by going to the massage parlor. You're not doing yourself a favor by exercising and losing a whole lot of weight, and maybe shaping your body in a particular way, looking good and saying all sorts of right things to say. You're not doing yourself a favor by doing radical self-love from an external or a superficial perspective. Radical self-love has to do with loving yourself in good and bad times. You understand? And here you are not saying you are basically going to just bulldoze over everyone, are just mean and spiteful and just horrible to people, and you don't reflect on yourself because you love yourself enough. It's like, okay, everyone makes mistakes, I made a mistake, whatever. Kind of, no, that's not self-love. Self-love is sitting down with yourself and saying, but why did I treat that person that way though? Why did I do that? That's self-love. Self-love is also accountability. Because if you're just going to just keep living your life and just loving on yourself, superficially, and not really reflecting on anything that you are doing or anything that is happening in your life, that's not self-love. You understand? That's just a superficial thing. So those are the two, sides of that coin of, self-love, or the kind of relationship that we end up having with ourselves when we are not yet healed. People tend to move from one extreme to another. Instead of actually letting go of that coin and stepping into the territory of true and authentic healing and integration, right? So that's that. So what does healing look like when it comes to, emotional wounds before starting a relationship? Well, number one, as I said, you want to address the reasons why you ended up in this relationship in the first place, and not to blame yourself or anything like that, but to be able to visit the wounds that would have led you to making that decision to be with that person. You understand? So you want to heal and integrate. That's really what it is. So you want to get in touch with reality. And by getting in touch with reality, you first and foremost get in touch with the pain that you are feeling within yourself. All right. And then this is where now spiritual alchemy comes into play, because you are presenting this pain that you are feeling before the presence of God, before the divine, and before yourself. And to say, right now, we are presenting this thing before the consuming fire of the light of God, so that this pain can be dissolved by the presence of God in my life. You understand? So you want to heal and integrate that with conscious awareness of what is going on there. You understand that, okay, fine, this was the wound there, and this is what happened there, and now I'm healing it in this way. I'm being present with it, I'm transmuting it, and then I'm moving to a higher timeline for myself. And you are also, number two, learning the lessons that situation would have delivered to you. You are learning the necessary lessons that have to do with that experience that you've had. All right, so that's number two. So that now, you can see, okay, fine. So previously I took this particular direction, and I can see that it was a wrong turn. And I took that wrong turn because maybe I was desperate here, and because I was wounded here. You understand? And so now that I've covered those angles, I'm feeling a bit more comfortable and more confident now that, if the same issue presents itself again, then perhaps I'll take a different turn, or not turn at all, maybe keep moving straight, maybe I'll cross the street when I see the crazy coming my way. And then number three is allowing time to pass, allowing time to pass, where you are then, practicing that radical self-love. So you want to give yourself space to be the one that gets to give this love to yourself that you need, so that you are not needing this love from another person, but you yourself are that self-generating force, resourced and capacitated by God, by the divine. So you want to be that self-generated. So you want to feel what it's like to, enjoy stability, peace, and tranquility, and all of those things. Having had created those things yourself, you co-creating them with God, you understand? Instead of, having another person play a role in that in terms of a relationship, right? So that, when you try and invite another person into your life, then you are able to say, to sit down with yourself to say, but my life, at its best looks this particular way. So, and then you are able to reflect on whether or not the other person will actually add to, that thing that you've already created in your life, which you value, which is beautiful, which is amazing, and you've created it yourself with the divine. Are they going to add to that, or are they going to take away from it? All right, because then if someone is only coming to take away from your life, then the question is, should they be in your life to begin with? So you will be able to see those things when you spend enough time on your own, because then you begin to see what is it that you want. A lot of women that I speak to, they tend to feel like, the more they spend time on their own, the more they become fussy, the more they become selfish, the more they become, and they think it's wrong. And I'm like, no, that's actually good. It's good to actually get to that point, because you want to be fussy as a person. Because the thing that lands us in trouble is that we are so accommodating and so tolerant that we end up, just literally giving ourselves over to the lowest bidder. You understand? So you want to be fussy and selfish and finicky, because this is your life. And any man that comes into your life and start, saying that you are fussy and finicky and everything, they are basically exposing themselves to be an incompatible partner that they are to you. Because this means this is someone that's not looking to meet your needs. Because when someone is not prepared to meet your needs, someone is not prepared to respect you, someone is not ready to have a win-win situation with you, what they will do is set the dynamic up so that you have little to no expectation of your needs being met in a relationship with them. You understand? Because then they will start calling you difficult, problematic, you are not the right woman. Sometimes for some of us here in Africa, sometimes people, they say to us, you are too masculine. when they try to intimidate us, right? They tell us, and what they're doing is they are exposing themselves, because what they're saying is that they are so not masculine themselves, even being men, that they are intimidated by you being a strong woman. Now in Africa, when you tell a man, no, that's not how it gets to go, then you are called all sorts of names, because women are supposed to be quiet in the presence of a man. So those kind of things, those are toxic things that you are able to avoid when you allow yourself enough time to spend with yourself. And it's like, okay, if you're coming at me with all sorts of stories about me being defective or me being too masculine, or that's not, that's the person that I shouldn't be playing with. You understand? And then, so now let's see number 4, right? Let's see the 4th one. You want to meditate. Now here, this is where you take away all this other stuff that has to do with you trying to heal and integrate, you're trying to remove distortions. You are not dealing with that. You are not, trying to, build your life and all of those things when you are meditating, right? You are spending time in the presence of God. That's all you are doing. You are sitting at the feet of Jesus, literally, all right? And you are drawing from him everything that you need. Okay, everything that you need to get from him, because only God can heal us. You understand? Only God can heal us, over and above everything else. No amount of healing work will ever be equal to the healing that comes from spending time in the presence of God. So you want to spend time in the presence of God like that, meditating. However, meditating will also not take away from that work that you still need to do, that has to do with you sort of like learning the lessons, because you want those wonderful things that are coming through from God during your meditations to also, enter into the mind, so that then they can be translated into, digestible wisdom, right? So that you are able to, for example, have those divine revelations that, and those divine revelations usually come in the form of, oh, okay, fine, I see. Now I see that person for who they really are, not for the overlay that I had created. And who they really are, to the most part, is likely maybe a very broken person, a very broken human being that feels very powerless. And their only way of, accepting any form of power is by breaking other human beings. You understand? Then you are able to see it for what it is. And then you are able to, heal and move past that. You understand? So you do that when you engage with the healing process, instead of, when you're just sitting in the presence of God. You understand? But both are important. You understand? So you can't heal and exclude God, with his meditation from the picture. Presence, you can't exclude meditation from the healing process, and you also can't exclude that whole process of healing and learning your lessons and all of those things from the journey, right? So the two go hand in hand, right? Thank you so much, Soul Tribe, Soul Family, for spending time with me on this transmission. Remember, consciousness is the new frontier. Until next time, namaste.